On the Healthy Human Revolution podcast, Dr. Lori Marbas interviews nutrition and lifestyle medicine experts and extraordinary guests whose informative and inspiring stories will empower you with the knowledge to transform your life and health.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marbas, and I'm so excited today to welcome Nelson Campbell, who needs no introduction, but from PlantPure, and then Dr. Daryl Hershberger. How are you guys today?
Doing great.
Yeah. Good. I am so excited to talk about what's going on with you guys. Okay, so you had a program. So we had the PlantPure prescription program, which plant-based telehealth has been launched, but then you did an on-site in LaGrange, Indiana with Dr. Hershberger, and you had some amazing results. And I can't wait for people to understand the power of one, the PlantPure prescription program, but just when you bring a doctor too involved in the community, I can't wait to hear everything. So who would like to start? Like, how did this project get started off the ground?
Do you want me to bridge to you, Dr. Hershberger, or do you want to jump in and get started?
You go ahead. That'll be fine.
Okay, I'll just tell how I met you and then hand it off to you to tell the rest. But yeah, so we have this program which we're calling our PlantPure Rx program. Basically it's a 10-day immersion that physicians can prescribe to their patients. It includes pre and post biometric testing, 10 days of education, and 10 days of meals. So people can learn about this, experience the health benefits, and then see the results in the numbers. And so we're actually starting to launch this with you, Dr. Marbas, and plant-based telehealth. And then I was contacted by a friend of mine who also happens to be a friend of Dr. Hershberger, who told me about you, Dr. Hershberger, and LaGrange, and your interest in a kind of food as medicine approach or program or intervention. And so I started talking to you about the PlantPure Rx program, and one thing led to another, and we had an awesome experience in LaGrange. So I'll hand it off to you.
Okay, well, how it came about for us is my daughter is our office manager, and she got, her husband got sick with COVID, got it from the factory he works at. He was down pretty much in bed for 2 weeks, and right as he was getting better, then my daughter got it from him. And so she was home, and they both had it pretty bad in terms of the fatigue. They didn't, their oxygen saturation stayed good and everything, but they just didn't have energy to do hardly anything. And she would lay on the couch all day watching TV and got tired of watching movies. And she watched some documentaries. She watched PlantPure Nation was one of them, and she watched Game Changers. And that really got her attention because just last September, I had a cardiac cath, and I had two pretty tight lesions. I had a 99% obstruction and a 95% obstruction, and they put stents in. And the cardiologist said that your cholesterol is not that bad. This must be a familial thing, for you to have this much coronary disease. And so I have 3 kids, and they're in their late 30s and early 40s. And Maria's the oldest one. She went and got, all 3 of them went and got what they call here a Heart Smart scan, which is a calcium quantification of the coronary arteries. And she had a really high number for her age. She was in the 99th percentile. And the 2 boys also were 98 and 97th percentile. So it really got her attention when she saw that. And then she saw those 2 movies, and she was here at the office telling one of the other girls that she's going to go on a plant-based diet. And it just happened that this friend of Nelson's was a nurse practitioner student in our office at that time. And she went back late in life to get, she's RN, and went back to get her nurse practitioner degree and did a clinical rotation in our office. And so she heard Maria talking about this. And of course, she had the connection to the PlantPure people. And then it was several weeks later, I think, at least a week later after she was no longer on the rotation. But she had left a bunch of books and CDs for Maria to watch, or my daughter. And in the meantime, she got us to watched the movies, The Game Changer and PlantPure Nation, and gave us the books. I started reading the book, and then we decided, my wife and I, that we're going to go on the plant-based whole food diet. And I texted our friend that we've decided to go on the plant-based diet. And they said that just within like a half an hour ago, they just got off the phone with Nelson at that time. And so they made the connection with him because they thought he might be interested in being involved in some way. So then they put us in touch with Nelson, and we decided to do a jumpstart, a 10-day immersion program here at Ready Care. So I invited all of our office employees and a bunch of our patients, and we did, well, I had some friends and relatives too that participated, but we had 50 participants. There were 39 in the first group, and then there were a bunch that were on vacation. That was kind of our spring break week when we actually started that. So there were a bunch of them gone, but still wanted to participate. So there were 11 more that we started the following week then. So they overlapped a little bit, but it was a pretty good time. Actually, Nelson came out and helped introduce it. We had a meeting first at the beginning of the Jumpstart, and then halfway through, we kind of met with them, see how things were going. And at the end of the 10 days, Nelson was there again, and we went over results with everybody, and just kind of had a follow-up meeting with everybody, and everybody was really quite excited about it. And I can say phenomenal. A good share of them intend to stay on it because of the way the results that they got already in their first 10 days. So,
you know what, what's fun, kind of funny. That's a great accounting of it, Dr. Hershberger. But the funny thing is I was talking to John, who's the husband of Janine, who worked in your office. And I think I had called him, I think I was one who called him, and I was looking for an opportunity to do a community immersion like this, because as you both know, we're doing a film production. And so I was looking for an opportunity, and then I guess 30 minutes prior, he had been talking to you about this. So
wow,
it's pretty amazing how that worked out.
Yeah.
Oh, the universe has its way of working things out, whatever I consider it God, but that's, things happen for a reason. I'm really tickled to be a part of it. So as far as the experience of your patients and clients and friends and family, what were some of the highlights that you'd like to share?
Oh boy. A number of people lost some weight. I mean, we had one woman that lost 16 pounds just in that 10 days. And
16 pounds.
Her husband lost 10 pounds.
Wow.
And the really fun thing about that family is that they said they have 3 kids. One of them's a 5-year-old, and then up to teenage is the oldest two. They said their kids just love the food.
Oh,
and
that's fantastic.
That's an amazing thing. That makes it a lot easier to stay on it when you have family members that actually like the food and wanted to participate. So that was kind of neat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had some, like in my family, we have all 3 of our kids participated, and both of my sons, their LDL cholesterols dropped by almost 50 points. They're both on statins already. But in addition to where they were with those, they dropped another 45 to 40, 42 to 45 points or something like that on their LDL. Mine dropped. My LDL was like 75 or something like that. I'm on statin also, but mine dropped down to 55. So I had an additional 20-point drop on my LDL. So yeah, that was pretty exciting to see that in such a short period of time. Mm-hmm. We had a couple of diabetics who had to back off quite a bit on their insulins, type 2 diabetics. We didn't have any type 1 diabetics in it. But yeah, one of them cut her insulin requirement in half, and the other one dropped her long-acting insulin completely, and it's just doing coverage then. So
yes, that is a very common occurrence, very, very common. So that's phenomenal. How do you personally feel like in yourself, in your body? Like, was there the new Dr. Hershberger that is sprouted? What's going on there?
No, I feel pretty good. I think I have a little more energy. I can't say
Yeah.
it was a real dramatic turnaround for me, but I can see a slow improvement into my energy level. So
Cool.
again, and we started, my wife and I actually started on it, I think 2 to 3 weeks before the beginning of our official immersion. But so, I was already starting to see some of that improvement prior to when we officially started. But yeah, I've lost 15 pounds myself now since we started
Wow.
in the beginning. And a lot of that was before the official immersion. But so yeah, and my wife's lost, I think 12 pounds or something like that. So we're both pretty excited about that.
That is excellent. And then what was some of the feedback? And you said some people are wanting to stay on it. And, tell us a little bit about like, why would they say they wanted to stay on? Like what, there's the weight loss and then the diabetics. Was there anything like blood pressure or headaches or just like the arthritis, like you mentioned, anything else that was really exciting to hear?
Yeah, we have had some decrease in the blood pressure. The one person that's also a diabetic and cut her insulin down also had to go off of some of her blood pressure medicine, which is a good thing because her blood pressure was rather difficult to manage. And I think she was on 3, if not 4 blood pressure medicines. So I think she's dropped at least one of those, maybe 2.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the other main thing in the group was just an increased level of energy. We didn't see a lot of other things like, headaches I don't think we had any chronic headache people in the group. So I guess there wasn't any of that to report. We have some other people with like Parkinson's disease that we're hoping to see improvement with, but we haven't been long enough yet to see any significant change there.
Yeah. The Parkinson's takes a little longer. I've worked with quite a few actually, and maybe in about a 6 to 9, 12-month range, you will see energy improving. They start exercising. As we know, mobility and exercise are so important for those guys. And, I had one, she was a diabetic. She cut 90 units of insulin. She's no longer on any of her insulin. She's on 1 oral blood pressure medication with the lowest dose and 1 oral metformin. And then the Parkinson's, she's allowed her now to exercise an hour a day, where she wasn't able to do any at all before. Wow. And the weight loss has been significant for her as far as her mobility as well. So there's definitely and I am not sure if it's the Parkinson's per se getting better as far as you look at the disease process, but when you're looking at the functionality and the ability for them to move and all the other disease burdens going away, that's, I think, where the quality of life is improving. So that's been really fun to see for people like that, for sure. Amazing. Nelson, what was your fun part of this? Like, what was that like to be as an observer?
Yeah, so, we've been doing this as you have for some time now. So we saw things in this immersion similar to what we've seen in the past. And, there were a couple stories in particular that were really inspiring to me, but one gentleman that we actually interviewed at one time was taking 100 pills a day before he met Dr. Hershberger. And Dr. Hershberger streamlined that and kind of took care of him, but he was heavily medicated and a type 2 diabetic. He had nausea every day or most days. And I just communicated with him earlier today, Dr. Hershberger. It sounds like he's doing pretty well. I know his insulin has been cut way back and he's not throwing up for the most part. I think he's been pretty stable, and he says he's feeling better and I guess lost a little weight. And so that was exciting to see. But, the one thing that I really got from this trip that I hadn't seen before, and this is a really important point, and it's why we created this PlantPure Rx program in the first place, because I've always believed from the very beginning of the work that we've done, is that we're not going to build a plant-based world. We're not going to get this out to the masses unless our healthcare practitioners are at the forefront. We absolutely have to engage our healthcare practitioners, or it's going to be a long, difficult journey. And I saw that in Indiana. This was the first time we'd done a big group immersion in this format. And the community of LaGrange and the nearby town of Shipshawana, you know, it's not a place where folks really been thinking about a plant-based diet. You know, it's a beautiful rural community, but it's a farming community and more traditional diet. A lot of Amish, actually. That was kind of fun. When you go up there, you see buggies everywhere. And the Amish farms up there are so beautiful and well kept and clean. It's like a postcard, you know,
Wow.
when you drive through the countryside. Just a beautiful, beautiful community and wonderful people. You know, that kind of Midwestern type folks, and just really great. But anyways, when we did our interviews of certain of the patients, we would always ask them, why, you know, why did you do this? What motivated you? And it always came back to Dr. Hershberger. And one thing I learned is that he's a beloved figure amongst his patients. He's a really good doctor. And they basically said, you know, we wouldn't have even thought about this. We wouldn't have been willing to do this if he hadn't told us to do it. And so that just, to me, that just underscored the absolute critical importance of a healthcare practitioner, a physician, a nurse practitioner, a dietitian, but someone, you know, a licensed practitioner working with the patient is really important.
Mhm. I agree 100%. Dr. Hershberger, when you see that and hear that feedback, two questions. One, what was your initial motivation to bring on? Because this is a big project. You're talking labs before and after, you're teaching. I mean, and the in-person stuff can be a lot, a whole lot. And then second, I mean, that must feel amazing because I don't know how long you've been practicing in this community. I'd love to hear about your history there.
Yeah, well, I started in LaGrange County right out of residency. So I've been here 30, well, in July, it'll be 30 years I've been here now.
Wow.
So in the same county. So yeah, I've been here a long time. I appreciate what Nelson said, but you know, I'm keenly aware of the influence that a physician has on people's behavior. I heard of a study that was done, and this was, I think, when I was still in residency, or maybe even before, that said that of those smokers who quit smoking, the number one influence to convince them to do that was their physician, their personal physician, telling them they need to do it. And I've used that in my whole career and try not to miss an opportunity to advise somebody to quit smoking. And I see this diet thing as the exact same thing. I mean, if we can use that influence that we have over patients to get them to eat a healthier diet, we can just massive health improvements that they can get that goes far beyond any pill that I could prescribe or anything else I could do for them.
I echo that in so many ways. When I started my plant-based venture in Colorado, I lived in a town called Rifle, Colorado. You can just guess what the kind of people, what they were eating and what was the culture of hunting and ranching and natural goods. You know, there's lots of very similar, hardworking, amazing people. We're missing the Amish side though, but by the time my kids are in their 20s now, but when they were in high school, my son played on the baseball team. And by the time, it's a small community, it was like 12,000 people. We'd had some other people. I had half the baseball team going plant-based, half the parents, because I was their doctor, because there was only like 4 of us at the hospital seeing patients. But it was such a wonderful thing to see all these people in the community, because someone is taking the time and sharing this amazing tool of health. And it was really fun to be a part of that, for sure. I do miss that at times. But what are your plans moving forward now that you started this new thing? It's going to grow. The snowball grows very quickly, but I'm really curious to see what you'd like to see.
Yeah, well, I'm struggling a little bit with how to move forward with this. I mean, I'm sure you're aware, very time consuming to talk to a patient about this and to try to convince them that this is going to make them feel better and live longer and have fewer, you know, heart attacks and strokes and those kind of things, especially younger people, because they don't have diabetes, especially if they don't have diabetes and, you know, hypertension or any really significant illnesses that they feel. it's hard to convince them that they need to do anything different than what they're doing now, especially if it takes an effort to do that. And it does take an effort to change to a plant-based diet. So, you know, if I spend the time with all the patients that need it, which is almost all of my patients, I just won't be able to be nearly as productive. So I'm toying with the idea of training a couple people in this, couple people that really believe in it, and to get them some nutritional training in plant-based diets and nutrition, and then make a quick introduction and then refer them to those people. And you don't necessarily have to be licensed people, but at least somebody that's on the diet and believes in it, and maybe get them to do all the training and the education for them. So that's what I hope to do. I'm not sure how that'll work out, but yeah, we're really early in the process. But yeah, I get really frustrated with people when I try to explain this to them, and they just can't fathom the idea of not eating meat, you know, or not having butter on their baked potato, you know. Yeah, we got to figure out some way of streamlining the process to get this out.
I do think that's a good model, and we were discussing it when we were out in Indiana. I think the idea of having a trained person, a junior person on staff in a busy practice where the physician can kind of provide that front end motivation and refer the patient to that person to explain the program and provide more detail. I think that'll really work for you, Dr. Hershberger. I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah, and I'll be interested in finding out from you two, where are some of the places to get that training for these people? You know, I'm sure there are places out there that have good nutritional programs that we can get the right kind of training for them. So
yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of ideas for you to help you. And it really depends, because the beauty of, I think, where your practice is that is there another physician in your practice, or is this a lone physician practice?
I'm the only physician, but I have 3 nurse practitioners who work with me too. So.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Yeah, that's easy because you're kind of in charge, but then there's others, like, you know, like when I was in the military, when I was in the Air Force, I have limited capacity to bring on someone, or if someone's working in a space like I was in Rifle, I was an employed physician in a group. And so, you know, there was some flexibility. So it really depends also on what type of environment that physician's working in, and seniority, honestly, because I have a lot of younger physicians that are really embracing this, including my daughter, who's graduating medical school in a few weeks. And she's like, yes, this is great. But and doing family medicine, but that really depends on a few different things. But yes, you're exactly right. If you can have someone do the educational side of things, that's really, really helpful. And then when you speak of the messaging, Nelson, do you have any thoughts or anything? How do you see messaging being different across your experience with the jumpstart? Like, is it the young people respond to something else? Is someone who's older respond to something else? Is there anything there that you might be able to give us some insight on that you've seen?
Well, you know, I always say, and of course, I know you're the same way. No matter who you're talking to, you have to be careful that you're not telling them to do this, you know, that you're just providing the information, and you're always speaking in a humble way, in a way that connects with people and their values, their core values. And there really is something to be said in making a connection to values, because then what you're saying, you don't seem like, you know, you're so alien to them, you know, that if you know, maybe there's some familiarity there, and you're more willing to listen if they feel like you understand them, and you understand their values, and then presenting this idea in a way that's aligned with people's values. But in terms of how you approach different age groups, absolutely. Young people have different motivations than older people. As you know, young people tend to be more concerned about the environment. And of course, you know, there are connections between this way of eating and the environment. And so, you know, you can always talk about that. Young people also tend to be more concerned about, you know, factory farms and how we treat animals and that sort of thing. So that always plays better with them. older folks, it's really all about the health side of it, and connecting with their health concerns.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely. And I would say for sure, the one thing that I've seen is, like you said, connecting to values. And so when I let the patient speak, and then I'm looking for clues, right? I'm looking for emotional triggers and levers that I can pull, because there's always lack of hope. And I think that's the thing that this is so amazing and so powerful, is that it brings an element of hope. And there's not too many doctor visits that you're seeing hope. Here's another prescription, your diabetes isn't controlled, oh, blood pressure is out of control, here's your fourth medication. And this actually is like, what would you do if you didn't have diabetes and your neuropathy got better and you're off of your blood pressure meds and you lost 40 pounds? That they're like, I can think about that future has not been dictated to me, because I've had multiple patients mention to me, well, my doctor told me once I had diabetes, I had it for life. And I think, what a horrible sentence to be told that. Now, granted, this might be true, but we can make it significantly better, and you can, decrease your risk of complications in the future. But I think that hope element is really, and I get really excited. I need to tamper down the excitement sometimes, because I get so excited about patients getting well. And now I'm starting to draw in physicians as patients, which has been really cool, because they're, like you said, there's that element, that social contagion. And then, like, Dr. Hershberger, how many people, if you don't mind me asking, like on your panel, like your practice must be, the breadth of your practice must be significant in a community alone practice like that.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. I mean, from our name, you can probably tell we do walk in too. We have after hours. So
Wow.
it's hard to look at the computer and say our panel is this big, I mean, probably around 5,000, I suppose, including
Wow.
nurse practitioners, patients, and so
Yes.
forth, and people that we've only seen a few times and so forth. But
Amazing.
yeah, one thing that really got my attention, and I use this for everybody, is when I read the book How Not to Die, the preface of the book, when he tells the story about his grandmother, how she went from a 65-year-old cardiac cripple to walking 10 miles a day in 3 weeks' time by doing that plant-based diet and some exercise. That just blew me away. I mean, I never in my medical career or training had I been ever led to believe that was even possible, that anything like that was even close to possible. So it still blows my mind to think about that one story. So what I do,
Awesome.
I printed out the copy of the front cover of the book and the preface of the book, and then the table of contents, and I show those to patients. That's how I first introduce it to them.
Nice.
And I tell them, read this preface and then look at the chapter that might, affect you if you have breast cancer or lung disease or heart disease or whatever, and then get the book. And I said, so many people are, intimidated by the 600-page, book. It's, inch and a half thick probably. But just read this chapter of it and then see what you think after that. And you'll probably want to read the rest of the book after you read that chapter, but at least do that much and see how it might apply to you. So that's because of the impact that just that preface of that book had on me. I was convinced already that I was going to read the book. And then when I got done reading that book, I read the China study, Nelson's dad's book. And I was so convinced by that time that I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to eat any more meat. I don't care how bad this other food tastes, but I'm done, So I just wish that I could get those two books into my patients' minds, but I know nobody reads. I shouldn't say nobody, because some do, but very hard to get somebody to read that book. That's what I thought. Maybe if we could get them to at least buy the book and read one chapter, that might get them started into it. So
yes, and that's honestly, Dr. Greger actually has a really good YouTube video, and I think I'm sure it's on his website, where he talks about the How Not to Die, and it is a really good, it's like an hour long, and he's entertaining, because I don't know if you ever watched Dr. Greger speak, but
I've watched a couple of his online things. Yeah,
he's hilarious. He's like jumpy and quirky, and he's got this dry sense of humor. It's just really fun to watch. He's highly entertaining.
You certainly see his sense of humor reading the book. I picked up on that.
exactly. But it's a great 1 hour or so video. And then there's
You
amazing,
know,
yes, go ahead.
do you know what that's called? You know what
The
that's
new,
called, or how to find that particular?
that was Nutrition Facts. If I would Google nutritionfacts.org or Dr. Greger's, it's like his annual recap or of how not to die or something like that, or the most chronic diseases. It's somewhere in that title. I'll definitely send the link, and I'll actually put it in the show notes here as well for folks who are listening.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely, it's a good one. And when I started, I read the China study in 2 days, and
Wow.
I literally could not put it down. And I literally would sit like against my bed on my floor, and I was just highlighting this. And I told my husband, he'd walk by, he's like, look, they're turning off cancer with plants. I'm like, he's like, you're okay. He's like, I don't think you understand. This is amazing. And then my brain was just like, what am I going to do? I have 3 teenagers at home. Oh my goodness. And we did it overnight, but anyway, there's a fun story there. But that was such a whoa for me. You're going to do is, I think what also helps is what I found is that over the first year, because there really was no place for me to go. There was a few articles by Dr. McDougall directed to physicians on what to do, because I was really worried about this whole deep prescribing thing. I was like, I'm not sure how much to do, or when to do it, or what to do. And I just didn't know like the elements of things to coach patients and different things. And it took me about a year between, there was a little bit, the Nutrition Facts site was just, wasn't obviously not the breadth that it is now in early 2012. And of course, I did the eCornell course, at T. Colin Campbell's course. And then there's some books that I read. And then over the course of a year, what I found was there's a few important things to help them get started with small habits. But I actually, with my patients, because they were very kind and patient with me, because I was stumbling as I was trying to learn and teach, was literally, I wrote up a 30-page handout that I would hand to every single patient with literally every question I kept getting. I just kept notating. They keep asking, what about this? They keep asking about their protein. They keep asking about the budget. They keep asking about, so I literally created this handout. I would go through my day. I had 25 patients a day. I would go through and it's like, these are the 10 or 8 or 5 or whatever that I'm going to say, they have diabetes. I'm going to talk to them. They have this. I'm going to talk to them. I'd highlight what I wanted, and I had it ready to go. And I was going in with the frame of mind, like, I'm going to share this with you. If you take it or not, whatever, but here this is. I'm sure I killed way too many trees with my 30-page handout. I just kept printing them off. And they're like, geez, Dr. Marbus, your paper, your use is a lot. I'm like, well, but that was how I grew into that, and was playing around with a lot of different things. But it is really quite a fun experience as a physician. And I know you've been a doc a long time, so I'm kind of excited. Are you excited do you feel like this little internal flicker flame growing? Because honestly, it is fun. It is so fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like I told people when I talked at our 10-day, wrap up for the big group, I said, after practicing, for 30 years and coming to what seems like close to the end of my career, I'm just so excited to find out something that I can actually do to help people in terms of reversing some of these diseases.
Yes.
We've always tried to treat and control these diseases, and that's what we do with the prescriptions we write. But to actually have now a prescription for somebody to actually reverse some of that disease, it's very exciting.
It's like the commercial, you get the commercials on TV for the drugs, and they're like, these are not typical results or some other thing. I was like, well, honestly, these are typical results. And I'm not quite sure, people are like, you got to be careful when you speak about reverse. I'm like, but I really do this on a daily basis. So it is so fun.
And after seeing some of the results like this, now to look at some of the drug studies and to compare, the diabetic medicines, how, what little benefit they had to prove that you got in order to approve that drug. And now you're going to ask people to spend $500 a month on that drug for that little bit of improvement. It blows my mind to think now that on just a diet change like this, which is not a small thing, but it's an inexpensive thing, that they can actually get so much better than adding one more of those drugs on.
Dr. Hershberger, You are exactly right. So I ran some lifestyle medicine clinics. I ended up working in another city in Western Colorado. In this decade has been a very busy decade for me, but it was interesting. I had one patient who stopped, I believe it was 2 oral medications, and this was a self-funded group. They are self-insured. It was we had the county workers and the school district in a municipality of about 50,000. So there was thousands of employees that were working, and we had 106 people run through my 12-week program. I didn't have a Nelson program then, it would have been great. But what was interesting was this one patient lost, I can't remember, it was like 25, 30 pounds, and completely reversed her diabetes, and stopping just the diabetic meds alone was $800 a month savings for this self-insured group. And then you multiply that times whatever that number is, it was phenomenal savings on a financial scale, which is, I mean, I can't even imagine the burden of the individual. I have patients here who come, like, they can't afford their insulin, and that is devastating. So, but these are, I have my type 1s and I have my type 1.5s and my 2s, but it's a serious problem that we're facing with the medications, the complications, the work. I mean, there's so many elements of this diet, and lifestyle in general, but the element of the nutrition, the foundation is just so amazing. But
it's incredible that when you see one of those commercials on TV, one of those type 2 diabetic commercials, they don't have to say you can heal your diabetes through a plant-based diet, but if you choose not to do that, then here's a drug for you.
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, it's kind of like, I consider it, honestly, for myself, malpractice not to share, even if it's not even my patient. Like if I am somewhere at church or the restaurant or wherever I'm meeting, I went to see my daughter's she had her match day where they found she's going to Boston for her residency. I had 6 people right there that hadn't heard about a plant-based diet. They were well versed in the plant-based diet. So, those, I consider it like an urgent matter. Like I can't spend a day or moment without someone at least knowing that there's a possibility of an improved health. And I think, I just don't know. It's like it turns like if you have burnout as a physician, I think this is a cure. It's a cure for it.
Yeah, I agree.
It is. And if you ever get to go, Dr. Hershberger, to any of the conferences like the PlantPure Project or the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, the Esselsons, and they have it's a plant stock. It's like my husband he goes, Lori, you're going to the mothership to recharge. I'm like, yes, I am. It's like you plug in, there's all these people who agree, and it's like so much fun. And then you're like, yes, here we go again. It's like, it is a different, wow. Like you go to these family practice conferences, national conferences, which I'm sure you've been to plenty as I have. And it's not the same. It is like here. And then you go to these others, it's like here, and the people are just, you're sharing stories of these incredible recoveries like you're experiencing there in Indiana. And like one of my patients, she's lost 300 pounds. Who does that? And her name is Nikki. I've had her on the podcast. The first time I met her, she weighed 506 pounds. And, she stepped on that scale and just tears were literally coming down. I was like, Nikki, that's the last time you're going to see that number, I promise. And it was. And 6 weeks later, she had lost 50 pounds. And she cried when I was with her, and she's getting in her car, and she could buckle her, her safety belt for the first time. And I'm just sitting here going, such little things we take for granted. And here's the power of plants. All we did was plants. We just said plants, guys. And this is the incredible change. And so it's just I don't know, it's a blast and such a blessing. But Nelson, I do want to highlight you because I think you're just, I want to say thank you because you have such a social service oriented loving spirit, and to take this on, and you and your whole family, and the way you're generating, you're looking at the social and the community aspect, and you're always so generous with, saying thank you and to us for doing things for you. But I just want to say thank you for you for doing something like this. It would bring us the opportunities to affect and help our communities and stuff. So I just don't think you get the credit where credit's due there at all.
Yeah, I agree with that
Well,
too.
yeah, well, that was nice. You're welcome and thanks. But I think the reason that I do this and we do this in my family, and my wife Kim is also a big partner in this, is for the same excitement that you're showing. It's in a way you could almost say that this is selfish because you get back more than you give. But I think that's always true. Anytime you do something good, it enriches your own soul most of all, and it's why we're here. We're supposed to live in service to others, and that's what you do, and that's what Dr. Hershberger does too. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I call it veggie crack.
Mhm.
So I tell my patients, they're like, listen, we got this relationship going here. I'm going to tell you to eat more vegetables. You're going to get better. I get a little dopamine hit, makes me excited, and we just keep that going. So this is what it is. Veggie crack, I get excited. You give that to me. Boom, we're good to go. And so the people just crack up. I'm like, this doctor's insane, but as long as I continue getting better, it seems to be working out okay. So, but yeah, it's just fun to connect to everybody. There's so many people working in other fragmented parts of it. That's why we started the plant-based telehealth, because we would go places and people like, how do I get a doctor who does this plant-based diet? Because I don't know what to do. There's no one in South Dakota. I have 2 patients in South Dakota, and they're like, I'm so thankful that plant-based health is there. So that's why we did it. But now you have this national, the food can go anywhere, right? So that's the beautiful thing. And then we can employ the physicians as well. So that's
Yep.
incredible.
Yeah, no, it's all about the physicians, the healthcare practitioner, getting them engaged.
Absolutely. Dr. Hershberger, I'm so excited for you and your community, and anything I can do or help, please let me know. I have network and this resources, and between me and Nelson, I'm pretty sure we know probably everybody in this field. Or if I don't know someone, I know someone who knows someone. So I'm happy to connect you with whomever you need or whatever sort of resources that you need. And I'm tickled to see where it goes. So fun.
Great. Well, thank you. And I'll probably be calling on you for some resources. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate that offer. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you both. And is there anything else finally you'd like to say that we'd like to share that I didn't mention or discuss?
I think we covered a lot of territory. What I would say is if there's anyone out there listening to this who either themselves or a friend or family member who'd like to go through the program, they can go to your website, plantbasedtelehealth.com. It's .com, right? Yeah,
Yes, yes, sir.
plantbasedtelehealth.com. And if you're a practitioner out there and you're interested, you can go to plantpurenation.com to learn about the RX program.
Awesome. Because exactly right. We want to have every doctor have this available to share with them, their patients, whether telehealth, whether they're in person. So it's a great thing, guys, because I have patients with my patients. We've been seeing on average very similar results. The dramatic decrease in their total cholesterol, their LDL, their fasting blood sugar, and the weight loss. But then the next thing they're going, wow, this is like so much food, but they're also reordering the meal starter to continue it because this is it's so easy. Why wouldn't I be doing it? So you guys definitely check it out. PlantPure, thank you so much. Dr. Hershberger, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And I just honestly, like I said, I will pray for success for everything you're doing in both of your camps, and whatever I can do to support it, I will be willing to do. So thanks again for joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Bet. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe button and the alert button so you will be notified whenever we upload any new videos. On Monday, we upload the Healthy Human Revolution podcast. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find it on all the major platforms, such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. On Tuesdays, we upload the Doctor's In. This is where I answer your questions. Thinking of that, could you please comment below any questions you might have about health or wellness, or any topics that you would like me to cover? Now, if you're looking for more resources on how to start a plant-based diet, sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, anything regarding wellness, we've got you covered. Check out healthyhumanrevolution.com. And again, thanks for watching.